just the one comment I would like to make is, of course, there was a big spike up this year's bill that we just got in the town portion. And part of that was due to not using the undesignated fund balance to lower taxes.
Right, the tax rate went up about 8.5%, give or take, from 25.35 last year to 27.50 this year. And we did vote as a select board to not offset that with any of the undesignated fund. It's come way down in the last few years with us buying down the tax rate, and we felt that we needed the reserves that we have, and we couldn't do that this year.
So if somebody calls you up and wants an explanation, that's the explanation.
Right. Right.
What's the balance now, Judy?
There's multiple
Do
things.
you know, I
Of
can't
the
remember.
unreserved, it's 511, I think.
Yeah,
I thought and it's supposed to be between 5 and 10%, right?
Well, the DRA
Yeah,
likes it,
recommended.
recommends it to be, yeah,
And that's combined
it's a little
all
low.
the taxes.
It's a little low,
so it's low, we're low.
we're low
It
right
used to
now,
be high, and we've used that.
right,
Yeah, we were over 20% at one point in time.
yes, you were.
That was
That's
nice.
So
That was a
if I
savings
could,
account.
5 to 10% of,
Thank you, that was my
The
question.
total amount to be raised by taxes
Right.
is what it's based on.
So it's a safety valve for any particular kind of unexpected, need for funds.
shocks.
They always use an example of bridge washing out.
Or a big lawsuit
Allows it.
that we are found
Yeah.
responsible and we have to pay.
Yeah. We
And-
had
and
a
I think
lawsuit
it's
that we paid out.
Fair enough to say that when I spoke to the DRA a few years ago about all this, there are towns that have zero balance.
Yeah,
You know,
Hanover's a good example.
They don't penalize you for not having a big fund balance.
But then you're gonna have to have a special town meeting if a bridge washes out, for
So
example.
Right.
it's 10% of, say, 3 million, is that what we're talking about?
I think it's the total, is it between both the school and the town, or is it just the town?
No, it's
Jen,
total
it's-
of both.
It's the total of both.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, because that would,
So it's 12.
arithmetic doesn't
11.
work.
I think it includes the county also.
At least 11 million.
Yeah, and the county is 600 and something thousand,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I think it includes the
So
total
we're
tax
only like
effort.
at 5%, not at 10%.
right,
Mhm.
that's about what we are, yeah.
Okay,
And as I say, we got over 20% at one point in time.
All right.
Mhm.
So, Judy,
yes, would you like me to?
do you wanna,
I sure would. Well, I'm gonna start at the very end, which is to say that, the present budget that you're looking at tonight, the draft, is up 9.94%, so we could call that 10%. I'd be happy with that. And then to go through, each department from what the presentation by the departments was to what the select board so far have done, and we will be working on this again at this Thursday's meeting, but we are presenting from last year's budget for the executive 201, 212, this year 243, 875, due primarily in part to looking to bring on one part-time person in the executive department. It will be a full-time person who will float between the select board office, the town clerk office, and we would like to propose to the fire department, this person also do the billing and the inputting of the run information that they were looking to hire a separate person to do, so to create a position.
And to do grants,
And to do grants.
don't forget the grant.
Thank you, Tina. I always forget that one. We need someone to be searching for grants and then applying for grants and then administering the grants, and that's a big deal thing. Yes, Dick?
question, when you mentioned spreading them basically between 3 departments,
Mm-hmm.
the issue comes is, when are you gonna cross that magic number of hours which requires benefits?
This
It's
person
crossed.
will get, this person will get benefits. It is proposed to be full-time, part-time in the executive, part-time in town clerk, and part-time in the fire department.
And the
Because it-
and Dick, the benefits are picked up already in the, election registration and vital statistics section. Cause that's where the person is part-time sharing also, and the money's already there.
Judy, could we just go back, you said you're starting at the end.
I started at, yes,
Yeah,
the
I mean,
9%, 10%
In
increase.
2 years,
Mhm.
we've increased 20% overall, I mean, if this number stays,
Okay,
right?
um,
Are we looking at, is this gonna continue on for foreseeable future?
I think as long as costs spiral up, we will continue to grow. The last couple of years, we, on the town side, have really cut out things that we needed. And this year, we didn't feel we could do that anymore. We really needed to, but I can't see another budget that would be on par with either this year's or like a 2 or 3% increase. I just, the way that costs are going, everything is more, our vehicles are more, repairs are more, fuel, sand, electricity, everything has just spiraled out of control.
Right, except wages.
And wages, we have.
No, I don't mean wages here, I mean the wages that come in the envelope.
I mean, ours 2.5% social security for
Social
example.
security, no, and we did do, this year, we did merit increases.
Yeah.
And I would say that everybody got something, some people got more than others,
No,
some people got less
I'm
than
not,
others.
I'm not quarreling
Okay,
with what you've done. I'm asking really a different question, which is, how much longer can we sustain 10% a year,
yep, I agree.
given the fact of the makeup of the town?
Mhm.
And with all due respect to Dick's mandate that we keep to the CPI, or at least the regional CPI,
Mhm.
we're so far away from anything that comes close to that.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that the school is not going to be bound by Dick's mandate.
Well, I would agree, it's difficult, and we usually do not keep to it. We usually, I think both the school and the town strive to, but, this was a year that we knew that we had been lacking with sufficient staff to do what needs to be done. And that we put off some vehicle purchases, which aren't in here, but will be coming. But we're also trying to look at, as you heard from Scott, even repairs on existing vehicles are just
Right.
crazy expensive parts.
And you can't actually buy the ones you wanna buy anyways, even if.
That's
even if
right,
we give you
it's
the
a
money.
2-year,
Right.
3-year
The
wait.
delivery time is unreal for
But yeah,
equipment.
I
Yeah,
think
so I'm
the
only,
reality, the reality is,
yeah,
I don't know the future,
I know.
but right now it looks grim.
Yeah.
And certainly this committee can discuss these and tell us where they think we should make cuts.
No, I don't think we can. I don't know enough to
But
run the town.
I did,
mean,
I know that there are some departments that aren't gonna be happy with me,
Yeah,
or with the select board, but this is where we came out thinking we were being
yeah.
fair to the operation of the town and fair to the taxpayers, and it's a big chunk.
All right, I just want
Okay,
to,
I'll stop.
Okay.
one thing I want to follow on, we had a large presentation from the fire department and EMS people, and I don't see anything in the selectmen's budget addressing the issues that they brought up in their presentation,
Really?
really. Because it was about a 7%, which is in line with what everybody else has done.
Well,
And I had the impression they needed more help
they
than most
asked
of the other.
for a 38.6% increase. The selectmen are proposing 7.38.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty big difference.
No, what I am
You're
saying
saying it
is,
the opposite
the
way.
selectmen's budget didn't seem to be responsive
Right,
Oh,
to what the fire department presented
I
to
was a
us.
little defensive perhaps.
All right? In other words, we don't have them come in here just to waste everybody's time, it's for us to get a
That's right.
feeling what the worker bees think they need.
And even though that's a significant percentage, total dollars, it's insignificant.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
20
know.
grand.
A lot of the things I did, total dollars is insignificant, but that's the only way I could see to reduce costs.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Dick,
I'm sorry.
I hear what you're
That's
saying
right, I
about
have
the fire, but I think that, you know, we said, yeah, you need an increase in administration, but you don't get a 274% increase. You get 100%, you go from,
well, no, but I'm just saying,
and I think those are serious considerations, and that the select board was doing the best they could for the fire department to ramp up slowly, and for the town to not be hammered all at one time.
So
Well-
if I could ask, as we go through the whole thing, and it relates to the fire department, but all the others too, just because I'm a novice and I don't know how these decisions are made, can you just explain, to the extent you can, why the difference between what the departments ask for and what the select board is recommending, whether it's up or down? Briefly, just so I'm wondering what it's based on. Is it
It
gut
is-
feeling, is it facts, is it too
It's-
much,
So,
and all the way through, sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it's not directly to the fire department, just so I can understand.
To all of them,
Yeah.
we look at the whole, we look at the bottom line, we go back through, we look at, the department is asked to ask for what they want,
Right.
including if it's a wish list item, put it in there if you think you need it, or it would be helpful, or whatever. So then we go through and say, well, from our knowledge base, this would be nice, but this is Lyme, and everybody can't have everything they want. And here's an area where we could cut out some money. If we cut out $10,000 or $1,000, at the end of the day, if it goes from a 23% increase or an 8% increase to something less, we're happy.
Sorry,
And
I-
it's not a personality-based thing, it's strictly based on, okay, that's the icing on the cake. If we get the cake, we're so happy.
right, no, and I totally get that. Again, this is just for me to understand, like, sometimes the advertising budget is cut, but something else isn't. And so I'm just trying to understand,
Mhm.
why do you pick this line item versus that line item? Specifically in the case of the fire department, I'm looking at SCBA breathing equipment
Right.
repair, and you cut that. And I'm wondering, what knowledge base did we decide that, who doesn't get the repaired equipment? Who isn't going into the building?
Everybody gets repaired. The main things in the fire department we cut were the additional people and some additional things that we felt were, would be nice to have. Where's the SBCA?
It's line 173. And I didn't mean to
Apparatus.
jump ahead, I was hoping
Yeah.
just to explain the
So
thought process on
last
each
year,
part.
again, last year, they asked, or they got voted at town meeting 1,750. This year, they asked for 2,750. We felt that $2,000 should cover what they needed. If they feel strongly, or this committee feels strongly that they need that extra 750, then it's up to this committee to put that in there.
Okay, but it was
It's
not
not-
based on knowing X, Y, or Z, it was based on what you felt the budget could bear.
What the budget could bear, but also that we don't believe that that amount is what it will cost to get them what they need.
Okay.
the fire department's a bad one to do that, because they have two other sources of funds that aren't on this sheet.
Right, well, and that's why I wanted to
And
understand.
the Bessie Hall fund is the fire chief's discretion.
Mhm.
I don't know how much money he gets a year, it varies from year to year, but anyway. And then they have a capital reserve fund for their safety equipment.
Right.
So it's hard sometimes when you cut something on this sheet sometimes it can be, well, we're gonna use one of the other things to pay for it.
Mhm.
With the fire department, same thing goes with the library.
Mhm.
They have another source of funding. Most departments don't,
Mhm.
so you gotta be careful that way.
Right, and that's why I was hoping you could explain as we go through, just, because I'm a novice and I'm trying to understand
Sure.
and I realize that the school will get the same scrutiny later, so
Yes.
I'm only asking as a learning piece, not as a, I'm not trying to put anybody on the
She's
defensive.
practicing.
Yeah, armor up.
Yeah.
Well, Frank's presenting that, I'm just gonna listen.
He does a good job presenting.
Yes.
Okay, so town clerk, I think it's pretty straightforward, and, let's see.
Can can I
Yes.
ask another question? I was
Sure.
looking through, the department number, the select board number is different, but I didn't see the difference in the line items where that difference is. It looked like the department and the select board numbers were exactly the same, but there's a $14,000 difference between the department and the select board. Did I
Okay,
miss where it happened?
well, we added in an administrative assistant clerk, bookkeeper payroll,
It's
so
the
the
part-time.
part-time person comes in there, and then later on, we take people out, but that's.
But it's not reflected in the line
The
items?
part-time person was
Is-
already there. It was a multiple,
It's in line 6, the part-time person.
Okay, so that just transfers down into.
And if you
No.
notice, it's not in the department line.
it's not though, Judy, I'm sorry, I don't wanna correct you, but, well, I don't wanna mislead anybody. Line 6 is 2
Three,
full-time people
yes,
and 1 person for 20 hours.
Yeah, well, it's plus 25K
And then-
over last year's.
And then in line 33 is
yeah, but that's not what her question was.
3.
I'm just trying to understand why
Yeah.
line 43 is different in the department.
43.
Line 43 says 140,885 for the department
Oh, that, yeah.
request, and the select board request is $14,000 higher, almost. And I'm just, it doesn't add up for me, so I'm trying to figure out where the $14,000 came from. Yes. I was not a math major,
It
so
is-
I could
it
have
is-
missed it.
It is that
It is
part-time-
that part-time,
part-time
16-hour person.
But, so.
Yeah, but it doesn't show
Yeah.
under that department.
I'm gonna finish that, because what I did was I probably just plopped it right over in where the department request is, and then it didn't get totaled in that bottom cell.
Got
So it's an error.
Okay.
Okay.
So I actually showed, this is the draft from yesterday, that the department request was 148,885,
Right,
and the select board's was 154,882.
right.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
So they're not the same, so that is that
But all the numbers are
part-time
the same.
person.
Yeah, but all
If you
the
look at
numbers.
each individual
Right,
number,
right,
they are, because I didn't.
and
total
the
that cell.
same with, the executive, there's an increase there that
Right.
accounts for that.
Right, the numbers total up there, so that's why I was
I'll
just.
fix that.
And Judy,
Yeah.
Yes,
could you go over the full-time employees and all, because what I see is in the department, there are 2 staff people, and then in the, select board, there are 2.5
yep, that's right.
people there, and I just,
So the
so,
half
so
times,
we're gonna have the same people plus a part-time person?
yes,
Okay.
but the part-time person is gonna be full-time, but only part-time in the selectman's office, part-time in the town clerk's, and we're hoping that the fire department will also utilize that person, so it helps reduce.
And the benefits will all be where?
They will probably be reflected in the town clerk's
There.
department.
They're on line 34.
But it will be a benefit package
Okay.
to this individual.
Right, okay.
We have found over many years that 99% of the time, a full-time person is a better employee than a part-time person. They're more loyal, they come in, they learn to do other jobs, they're much more advantageous.
And you can hire one.
And you get,
And somebody's willing to do it, yes.
yes.
And I will say that I have had on my wish list for more than 2 years, a part-time person in our office.
Well, the select board has talked about it for more than 2 years, but we were not trying, we
We
were
were
tiptoeing
talking
around
about it
Dina.
when you were hired, Dina.
Yes. So,
So Judy, just, I got behind here, so the part-time person's gonna be in the executive office, the fire department, and,
no, the executive office, the town clerks,
okay,
and we're hoping that the fire department will
Oh.
utilize that for doing some of the, data entry,
thank you.
reporting,
Inputting and grant stuff.
right, and grants.
Think of it 2 days, 2
Keep
days,
plugging in
1
that
day.
grant
hopefully,
stuff.
Type thing.
Grants, Judy, grants.
Mhm.
Okay. Financial administration is our tax collector, this is line 45 through 61. Here we see a, new software package, G-Works, some training discount, the old BMSI, with their support was they're about the same at the end of the year, but, the new softwares with 1 year of, support is gonna run us about 15,000. This is again something that encompasses more than one department. We are seriously considering Avatar, which would be for the tax, it would be for assessing. That's it,
Assessing and tax, yeah.
and
So we're gonna get rid of Vision?
that is our thought. And, instead of having input of one piece of data into 3 different programs, it'd be one piece of data inputted once to go to 2 programs and then carry over into the 3rd. So, we think it's time to make this change. I know other towns in the area are also looking at making those changes. Dina and Marcy, who's our tax collector, and Jordan have been chatting with different communities and different people and the Avatar people to see what that looks like. So in this budget, that change of software is plugged in.
Is that a subscription or is that a one-time purchase?
It's a one-time purchase, but then it's yearly that you pay.
One time that,
2, 3,
and then
7,
over
4.
here, it's 2374, yeah.
In other words, you got a one-time, like 15K and then 2,000 a year or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like 3 years, so we'll need another 15K when we again decide to switch, right?
Well, we
But that's the
did-
issue,
Oh my
right?
God, we
That
haven't
is the
switched
issue,
for
but
30
we-
years,
I was
35
just-
years,
I was
we've
just
been
saying-
Vision forever.
Yeah.
We have been.
And I don't wanna say anything negative about Vision, but I will say a lot positive about Avatar and the beauty of having one program that feeds all of your information from your assessing into your tax billing and the general ledger side of it. I mean, we do triple entry of things, and we know what happens when it's time consuming, it's not efficient, errors happen, it's, so.
Now, does this include the general ledger or not?
Avatar has a little part of its program that will dump it over to my side.
So if we get this fancy time-saving package, do we still need that additional person? Cause I mean, you know, I'm with you, I mean, if we can't put the town through another 10% increase, it's just not gonna go over well, right? So we're gonna have to find a place where we can, you know, where we can do better, right? You know, is this software package, is that gonna help us that much, that maybe we don't need another person
Well,
this
it's gonna
year?
help the assessing department and it's gonna help the tax collecting department. It's not gonna help our grant writing and our bookkeeping and all that.
Okay.
Now, were we gonna do a reassessment? Because I don't see a.
That's on the table here. At our last select board meeting, we said that depending on where we go with the Avatar also does reassessing. And it might behoove the town to get this package working and have Avatar do it, and then it's whole clean slate, which has been the select board's goal from day one. And, in the long run, that would be much more beneficial So I should have an answer, we should have an answer in a couple weeks, but that was our feeling at the last select board meeting, that this appeared to be a better way to go.
So there are two
Well,
packages,
and-
is that both by
Yes.
Avatar, is that,
Yes.
So, yes, tax and assessing.
okay.
Well, and the other important bit of information is that when you are switching, or you do any kind of a major switch of assessing software, you wanna do it the same year that you do your revow. So that as you come, but that, see, that will be part of 25, because they'll start in 25 for the revow. They'll have to start doing some of the work. But if you try to change it on an off year or in the middle, it messes with the numbers, and everybody's assessments change, and everybody has a fit, and they wanna know why, and it turns into
People don't.
they don't understand, and it's not an easy thing to understand.
But if the goal is to start fresh, we've got the new packages, we've got the new company, we do the whole thing. My belief is this suits the purpose better than doing something this year, then switching, then it's all messed up and everybody's crazy. And the Avatar people, would be a whole different group of people than what we have right now, which was also the goal if we were gonna go with Vision to do it.
Now, where do the tax maps come in to this
Where do they
They're
come
separate.
in?
shuffle?
That's a whole separate company.
They have nothing to do with
They
this.
don't.
All right,
Yeah.
well, obviously, an awful lot of the mapping now is done on the computer with GIS type computer mapping, rather than the old drawing board with PMP.
We still have Cardo, well, they're CAI now is what they're called, but we call them Cardo.
Yeah, they
They
still
do our
do the
maps
mapping,
and they
we
do
don't
it all.
do the mapping.
I don't realize that, but I didn't know whether it was integrated into the assessing software yet or not.
No.
Will Avatar do all the conversion from Vision to their software?
That's my understanding.
Yes.
So you won't have to take Dina and 3 other people.
Months, I sure hope.
No,
not.
and they actually will take the sketches out, that's included in the fee, we've put in a little bit extra for that, because that would take Jordan forever.
Right. So it's up to 100, this price includes the data migration,
Yes,
100%.
That's a big chunk of it is.
that's my understanding.
But it's 2 times 15,000 then, right?
Well,
Cause the,
Two
Yeah.
times 12, 9.
12
well,
nine.
12.9,
13,
right, with
The
the.
tax
with the-
program is separate, and the vision, and the assessing is separate, both
I'm
separate.
sorry.
I'm having a little trouble putting everything together. So far, we've talked about the staffing increase
Mhm.
in basically what I'll call general government, between tax collector, town clerk, selectman's office, and assessing. And we've talked, now we're talking about the software changing
Mhm.
with the reassessment. And I think at some point in time, and I don't know who can do this, I would rather have these things presented as a topic rather than have it split between 4 different departments there. So when we decide to hire another person part-time, full-time
Full-time.
that's being split, we can make the decision of what the total cost is in one place. And the same thing with benefits, rather than have the benefits under the town clerk and half of her time under the fire department and, we have no idea how much this person is really costing us when we look at it.
Well, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think we'd like the same thing with this software reassessing change. The difference between the one-time costs of changing
Well, I have it
and
right
then
in
the
here.
annual.
I'm gonna bet Dana
changes.
can give you that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I have it, it's all right in here, but I'm
Right.
happy to separate it
All right.
out.
Because
And then
those
you
are the
can
big
see-
decisions we're making,
Then you
because they're
can
the ones
see,
that are driving this.
see what the yearly support is.
Yeah,
And the yearly support, mind you, for both the tax and assessing program is less
Less than
with
Vision.
Avatar than with Vision.
all right, good,
Considerably less
yeah, good.
for the assessing.
but,
Okay, so I've made a note to break
Yeah.
out the new person costs and the software change costs.
yeah, those are the big items that have been driving the changes as I've seen so far. The rest is all nickel dime stuff.
Well, and I'll just bring up that we left the benefits for the part-time person in the town clerk, because they were already there from
Well, I
the
know, but,
deputy. I'm just making it clear to you, Dick, I'm not arguing with you, I'm just making it clear. That's why it's there.
yeah. And, I mean, it gets, the way we split people between the various departments sometimes makes it pretty easy to forget it.
So I actually would like to go back, we talked a little bit about the Avatar software.
Yep.
Having been involved in software conversions and all, do we really believe, first off, do we have a firm quote from Avatar that says, yes, we can do it for the,
12/9. Yes, we do.
12/9, okay?
Yep.
Is that something that we need to put out for bid?
No, because we're switching software
Alright.
companies.
And I think another question I would have is, I will absolutely concede, it's a royal pain in the patootie to do entry into multiple systems.
Mhm.
How many of those do you do a month or a week or something like that? I mean, if it's constant,
Every time we do deeds,
how many is that?
well, depends on how often Jordan does them, every other week,
I
once a
mean,
month.
And how, I mean, how many is that?
Depends on how many deeds we get,
How
you
many
know?
sales there are
One-
a year.
Right,
One week, we might get 5 deeds, the
Mhm.
next week, we might get 20, it just depends
Hmm.
on when the registry of deeds decides to send them on down.
okay.
And every sale, yeah, exactly, every
Sure,
sale in town.
of course you have to update the records, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I was trying to get a sense of how frequent that was.
And I think the biggest problem is you have no way of verifying and validating that the information in all three databases is the same.
Mhm.
That's the biggest
Difficult.
problem. I mean,
Right.
it just,
If it was one
Well,
a
we
week or
do,
two
but it's a
week.
nightmare.
well,
That's right.
that's exactly the point.
Mhm.
And credits and exemptions are put in Vision, you have to manually put them in BMSI, cause they don't bridge over, and
Mhm.
da, 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 da. Same with the solar.
And the other thing about this person is, this is, besides doing the grants,
Mhm.
it is, the primary purpose is for a bookkeeper,
Mhm.
which Dick can verify, there was always a bookkeeper on staff, along with an administrative assistant, along with a clerk. So we, for many years now, had two people doing three people's jobs, and it's just become too much. And the day-to-day activities that our administrator does just far outweighs what was done before.
And the state requirements.
And the bookkeeper is sort of the last on the list. I mean, he does a great job doing it, but
Mhm.
it's really difficult. I get notes from her at 10 o'clock at night or on a Saturday evening, and just, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and it's all, we need a person that's their job. And we filled it out to make it a full-time job, so we can get the person we need. And then some of the stuff that's really falling through the cracks can get picked up.
Years ago, the treasurer was effectively the bookkeeper, and I didn't like that at all. If the person that was writing and signing the checks was also the bookkeeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like not okay.
Yeah, right.
Your auditor would be spanking your
They
hand.
weren't happy, I remember.
Yeah.
So
Our
anyway,
auditors went a little upset with that one.
what else do you have, Rich?
All right, in the general government, this was the areas that I had concerns with,
Mhm.
and going through. I mean, there were one or two other things that, you know, I marked with questions. But the whole staffing issue and software issue in the general government, the way it's, I don't know, scattered.
You don't like it that way.
Mm.
Well, it's hard to put it all together.
Right.
Well, when I give you the thing, you'll see it, and
Yeah.
you'll know it's still split here and there, but you'll see the total package.
And it's big bucks. I mean, it's, you know, we're playing with $150,000 in that one package for the changes.
I
No, you're
don't quite
not.
think it's quite so much,
No
but
way.
It will be very quickly between you put in $30,000 worth of software and another full-time person.
Plus
But they're
benefits.
really unrelated, aren't they?
Benefits,
Yeah.
well,
Is it
benefits
fair
are
to lump
there.
them together
No.
or not? I don't know, I'm
It's
asking
not.
Judy.
No, but I mean, you know,
Uh-uh.
they're in the same section of the government.
Well,
but they're
Yeah.
three different
Right.
departments, I think.
You may be able to do one without the other, but
No, they're not in the same section. The financial administration has the tax program, and the assessing, reval and property has the assessing program.
all right.
So, and the financial one is under the computer software, which is in with the financial, which it should be in the financial. But that's not an increase, that's actually a decrease.
We will try and pull them out for you, but, it is a big step. I don't know, do you wanna keep going line by line, or do you guys wanna look at what you have questions on, and then we can just do that?
Well, the next one I have questions on in my margin notes is the salaries in the police department.
But before we get there, I have a question about the legal expense.
Yes,
So last year, we were forewarned that there might be well, that 60,000 was a big increase from before, and we were forewarned that there might be lawsuits that were pending
yeah,
that in the town, and so I guess the question is this still the case? I was kind of hoping that that was a one-time thing, not a,
no, one of the lawsuits, two, we did the utilities, and then we did, one of the property assessment disputes settled, but the legal is over what we estimated, and it is continuing to go up, and we continue to have at least one pending lawsuit, if not two. So, and that's proven to be very difficult.
Now, are these related to assessing and the tax issues, or are they?
The two that are settled were, but the one that's not settled is not.
So is the $75,000 there, is that gonna be enough to cover?
I can't say for sure, but we did also put extra money into the property cleanup warrant article, also to cover some legal, and some of that will be able to hopefully cover some of the legal that's ongoing, because that has not been finalized.
Yeah, at least if you get a judgment against you, you can take it out of the undesignated
And
fund
that's the
balance.
other place, and that's true.
The courts are very good at changing the rules for their getting their money.
What's the nature of these lawsuits? Like, I'm trying to understand, so that's a lot of money, is that disputes about, like, assessment, you say?
One was about an assessment, the other, well, they were both about assessments. One
Yeah.
had to do with was it Eversource or one of the
It was
utility
that
companies,
source,
which
it was-
continually sues towns all through the state, saying that the assessment on their
Fair
property.
point.
And so we did settle one of those after quite a bit of back and forth. There was a meeting in a room about the size of the community room, the gym, with about 20 different towns present and lawyers in a different room saying, okay, how about this number? I felt like I was on television. No, that number's not gonna work. Well, how about this number? Back and forth for a whole day. But that's how that one got settled. The other one was a local property assessment. And then constant, we rely on our legal team to make sure that any contracts we sign, any purchase orders, big purchases, any possible pending settlements of, I don't know, like the skiway has a 20-some-odd-year-old agreement with the town about certain things, and we're gonna revisit that. Well, we're gonna ask our attorneys to revisit it with us. So that, we're not just saying, well, we'd like this, how about that?
Lots of, and planning and zoning uses
Yes,
the
they use
legal
them quite a bit.
department.
But the point that, what I'm trying to fish for, right, is say, if you, didn't we just reassess everybody in town?
Yes,
So if you get another software package in and it juggles everything again, or maybe it doesn't, aren't people gonna be like disgruntled, and end up with more lawsuits,
well,
or?
part of the reason that we would like to do this at the same time we do the townwide revaluation is so that the new package and the new
Mhm.
company are doing all the reassessment and the re-input, so that it's a one-time thing. And yes, every time you do a reassessment, it's difficult.
Well, but can I just interject here? Generally, when the reassessments happen, we get a lot of abatement requests. Those aren't legal, we don't use legal for those.
What's an
We use-
abatement request?
It means you think that your assessment's not fair.
Okay, but that's
Assessment
not
of the
something that we
property.
handle with the legal
No.
expenses.
No,
Okay,
usually
yeah.
when you get an abatement, the person fills out a form and comes to the select board and says, this is the reason why I think this is incorrect. And the select board talks with the person, talks with the assessor, looks at what the changes
Mhm.
were and says, well, how about this? And we can see where there might be some errors there, or we don't see any errors, or gee, I think you're underassessed. I've never seen that happen.
But if they can't settle it there, then that's where it
Mhm.
goes farther.
Right, but cause and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I thought that like reassessment was done like every 5 years or something, wasn't that like something?
That's right.
Like I feel like that was just done, right? So if we
No.
do a new software package,
2021.
is that right now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
this is
oh.
our 4th year.
Time
That's
flies
all
when
right.
you're having
So
fun.
next, this 2025.
When I'm having COVID?
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's very true. It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're essentially saying is that you're trying to coincide the new assessing software with when the normal reassessment moment would have happened regardless.
Correct.
Well, this is a year early though, right?
Well, if
Well,
we did it all in
yeah.
2025, but if it starts in 2025 and wraps up in 26, 26 is the year it should be
Right.
done. And completed for the taxes in 2026, which is
Although I will point out that the select board had decided to put an RFP out to have a revaluation done in 2025.
correct.
And now it sounds very much as if you're backing away from that.
We are considering going to 2026, starting in 2025, but finishing by 2026.
So that the, let me think about how not to be prejudicial here. So that the impetus for the select board to do the revaluation in 2025 is not sufficiently strong to outweigh the value of buying the new software and delaying the revaluation.
For my part, I would think the impetus is stronger. I think it will be even more fair, more neutral, a better software package, and possibly a better company. And certainly the company will have no need to protect themselves. It'll be all brand new,
Okay.
which was always my intent.
And this is probably better taken up tomorrow morning, so
That would be
I
great.
will step off my soapbox here, thank you.
I completely understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Have we beaten the staffing and the assessing,
I
and
know.
assessing
I am
software?
content where
You're
it stands.
somewhat content
Well, I am
Somewhat content.
with
till
this.
tomorrow.
Yes.
Do people understand it? That's the most important thing at this point in time. All right, moving right along. The next place, where did I put my margin?
You had police.
Oh, yeah, but-
You wanted to start with police before we
Oh.
went back to assessing again.
Well, I thought we finished, everybody else wanted to go to assessing, we're ready to go to police. Are we ready to go to police?
Yes. Could you tell me what the plan is here, Judy?
Yes, I can tell you what the plan is. I believe you heard from our police chief. he would like to retire in this upcoming year. He has hired a sergeant. And he is looking to hire a full-time officer at the start of the year. And his hope is by June, he can step down, perhaps work on a part-time basis, and move probably the sergeant up to chief, and the new officer as the first officer, the patrol officer.
Now, we've gone through this trying to hire a police officer for I don't know how many years.
Many years. Yep,
So the question comes, is that reasonable? And the other thing is, what we're doing here with this budget is we're having 2.5
mm-hmm.
FTEs in the police department instead of 2, basically.
Three for 6 months, I believe you,
Yeah, 2.5.
3 for 6 months, and then 2 for 6
Yeah.
months.
And
And
2 of that 2.5 are basically at the chief level in terms of pay.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
In terms of pay,
Well, we got 2 police
the
chiefs.
sergeant doesn't get paid anywhere near what the chief does.
I don't think you will see 2 chiefs. I think you will see a chief training a sergeant to become chief. The chief will step down, we'll have a sergeant, and at the same time, we have an officer who's already certified, has already worked as an officer, will be able to step in here with New Hampshire certification.
You mean he's got somebody lined up to take the officer position?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
Oh,
And I will say the 6 months of the part-time person for 12 hours is nothing in stone. Sean wasn't sure. It depends on what develops over the first 6 months, I think.
Yeah, but in any
It's
case,
fair to
it's not
say.
a terrible amount. That
No, it
particular
should be
6
in there.
months isn't.
That's
but
what it
Tony's
should-
full-time now, isn't he?
Pardon me?
Tony, full?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
Yes.
presently have 2 full-time people.
Sergeant Sweat is full-time, yes.
well, he'd been our officer for a number of years before
Yes,
he
he
went
was,
back to
way back
Plainfield.
when, that's right.
That's right, and he was chief there, so we
Yeah.
know he has some experience in that field.
So, but essentially, what I think you're getting to is that we are currently looking at a almost $400,000 line for the police, which
Yep.
next year might be again 300,000. That's what I think you're getting
I
at
think it should go back, yeah.
next year.
It'd go down to 350 instead of 390.
Don't say that.
It'll be 2 full-time
Yeah, but-
people.
2 full-time.
It's not a plan to make it a three full-time person. It's gonna be a 2 full-time police department.
I mean, obviously, we can't quite look into that, right, but, or like how the numbers shake out, right, but what we had, for 2024 was 295, right, so I'm
Right,
saying like, do we suspect that we'll drop back down to 295 for 2026?
Probably not all the way.
Probably not all the
That's what Dick's
That
saying, I
was 2
think.
full-time people though, in
Yeah.
2024.
yeah, but
Well, we
the,
got 2 years worth of inflation.
But you
Look at
have,
that
right,
295.
so when you look at it, you gotta have that.
Yeah. But
It-
that's
I
not,
don't think it will be the 389, but I don't think it will be the 295. One of the things that I have learned is when we take care of our personnel and we treat them well, we give them a good salary, they do get good benefits, we can keep them, and that's very valuable. When you start losing people because they're dissatisfied, because somebody else is paying more, all of a sudden you have all this turnover, it ends up costing you money and you don't get good service. So we try and be fair.
Well, we saw it in the highway department when they were down, the amount of contract work we have to do.
yeah.
to make
No,
up
but,
for
I mean,
the
look, you know, I see, right, like, I get it, these salaries are not shockingly high numbers for people, right? Like, I
Right.
understand that as well, but, right, like, looking at where we were in terms of an increase for last year, and where we're now looking for an increase for this year, it has to come from somewhere,
That's right.
right? And so, right, like, so then, you know, it's something we have to maybe ask questions, do we need to people in the police department. Do we need, I don't know how many trucks there are parked in that fire building, but there's a lot of trucks parked there, right? Like, we have to wonder, right, like, if where are then the bigger things that we can make changes to make sure that we don't, next year, see another 10% rise and another 10% rise, right? And,
And 10% is unusual
that's true, yeah, you already did the math, yeah.
for the town budget, but yes.
Well,
Yeah.
if you ran these numbers for 25 with just 2 straight people,
Yeah.
which is what it will be, it would look different than that.
No, I understand, but say it's like it goes down by $40,000, right? Like, when we're saying 10%, we're talking $300,000, so you're only like 20% of the way there to trying to save,
Right.
get back down, right?
Yeah.
So those are sort of the questions, right? Like, I'm 100% in favor of paying everyone the wage they deserve, but then what are the things that this town might be able to do without?
Right.
Right, like, maybe, you have a plow truck fewer and it just takes longer to plow the road. So, I don't have any visibility on how to make those decisions, but those are probably the questions that we're gonna have to then go through if we don't simply wanna say every year, 10% more, 10% more.
Right,
Mhm.
yep.
And some of these things, the step function is significant.
Yeah.
You can't hire one person for another $15,000. The next person comes in
Yes,
It's 75,000
at
with benefits.
75 plus the
Minimum.
benefits, and then
Right.
you're talking 100. So, and there's no way you can get around those kinds of step things.
No,
We went
that's
through this last year with the school budget,
Right.
talking about the increment, one more kid, and suddenly, oh, I need another teacher.
another classroom, yeah.
All right, and so, no offense. I mean,
Kids work that way.
right, so I mean, we, to some extent, I mean, that's part of what's built into this.
Yeah.
You can't just whittle away as
It's
much
worse
as.
as a small town because you can't spread it over a larger area.
And yet we're looking at the bottom line, and that's where most people's eyes go. They
Yeah.
don't care about how we're spending it necessarily, as much as they go, my taxes are gonna go away.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
Right,
So,
yeah,
I,
I'm with you.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I keep coming back to the same thing, how can we afford this?
Mhm.
I don't know the answer,
Well, I think it comes down to is we have to decide there's some things we're just plain not gonna do.
Like what? Tell me,
Well,
that's what this committee should say.
But also, what's the cost of not doing them? And I think we also have to think about, okay, maybe we take out, we don't plow the roads as quickly. What's the cost of that? What's the,
That's really expensive
Yeah.
because it gets into overtime.
yeah, the school bus goes in the drink.
And
I saw it do that once.
And
I
you
turned
wear
around.
out your guys, because instead of being out for 6 hours, now they're out for maybe 8. And they're pooped.
right, and,
And those are the
Scott
costs.
talked about that,
Yeah.
not having the extra truck or the right truck to do the right job and the extra cost and so forth, so,
Yeah.
I mean, but
That's
we're
the
gonna,
tough part.
we're
That's
gonna
the
have
tough
to
part for
do
all
a
of
big
us.
song and dance, or you are, at town meeting to explain how this stuff
I'll wear
pencils
my
out.
sparkly shoes.
There you go, click your heels
Yes,
together.
I will.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I'm sorry, it's just, I've spent hours on this, Dina's spent hours on
I
this.
know you have,
it's-
it's so frustrating.
It
for
is
us.
frustrating, because I don't think anyone wants to see these kinds of budgets, but where do you cut?
Right, and it's particularly challenging when we just got our tax bills in the mail.
Yes,
It's like,
exactly, which is up, what, 8-something%, yeah.
Well, people vote for the service in March and scream about paying for it in December.
they forget so quickly, right?
We should make that the same, all right, like, send the tax bills out right before town meeting.
There you
We're
go.
gonna see some- we're gonna see some real changes then.
That would be fair, or we could have town meeting in December.
And not plow the road beforehand.
I wasn't specifically saying the project, I'm just
Oh, I know.
trying to,
You plow it,
I'm
but
not
don't
advocating
sand
for
it.
any one particular thing.
I was trying not to pick the fire department, so I picked the plows.
Yeah.
Yes, that's good. Anyway, yes, so
Okay.
What else? You will
Alright.
notice I did pare down the fire department, but, you know, and they have a right to ask for what they think they need, and they did.
All right, the other one I had a question about that seemed to have gone up, but 22% was for the
Which line?
dispatch, and that is on 183.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep.
It
The
did.
contract went up 3 to 5%, they said they hadn't settled it yet. Plus the, county attorney went up to $9,600.
Because it says here 3% plus 9,600.
That's the county attorney, 9,600.
So it's in
Okay.
public safety.
Hmm.
So besides using our private law firm,
Right.
there is a county attorney that, depending on the nature of what we need, we can sometimes use. And they go to district court, which is in Lebanon.
All right, I was the foreman of a grand jury up there,
Up in,
and Haverhill,
yep, that's not district court,
and, well, that's the county.
yes.
And the quote, assistant county attorneys is basically what we're talking about here. Let's say I was not very impressed with who they were able to hire for those positions.
You probably got what they paid for.
Yeah, well,
I think that's different than this attorney here, because that again is Superior Court. This is,
Right.
this person works Hanover, Lebanon, and Lowell.
Multiple towns, yeah, Canaan.
And-
all
more
that.
like a police prosecutor.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Did he relieve?
Do you remember Chris O'Connor?
Yeah,
That's who that
but
is.
he's an attorney, Chris
Well,
wasn't
he's
an
not
attorney.
anymore, but now this person is, yes.
Chris was a policeman,
Alright.
but, yeah.
So he takes care of the district court
She
Right.
does, yes.
for several towns.
Yes, she
Is this the one who's
does.
been in the
Yes.
paper for the Dartmouth thing?
Pardon me?
Is this the one who's been in the paper for the Dartmouth?
No,
I
that's
don't think
Superior.
so, no.
Oh,
Okay.
wait a minute.
That's
They have
Lebanon,
been
though.
going to Lebanon.
Yeah, they've been
Yeah, I
going to
don't
Yeah,
Lebanon.
that's a district court in Lebanon.
I
I don't know.
don't remember what name that was.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was
I just-
surprised it was at district.
But
court.
they handle the speeding tickets and stuff like that, for lack of a better description.
Okay,
All right, that was the question there, of why we had that extra 9,600 in that
Mhm.
line. Let's see,
It's a
my
lot
next,
of dispatch on that line.
yep.
my next one that I saw was in the highway department equipment repair on 204, that had a big increase.
Mhm.
Yes, it did.
And I looked at
Can't
the
buy a
junk,
fuel filter for less than $1,000.
Well, 204 is equipment
It's
rental.
craziness.
yeah, and equipment rental was another question that I had about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
They were both, seemed to go up an awful lot.
Mhm.
Now, is this just that we're using Rowell more than we used to, or what?
That's not RAL. That's equipment that we rent. That he might
Well, we
rent.
went and bought a whole bunch of extra equipment there that just sits there idly, that I wonder why we bought it, it's an excavator.
Sometimes our excavator works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, well,
Size-wise, it was a poor choice.
Can it be sold?
Notice Scott didn't buy that, I wanna point that out. Yeah,
Excavators go for a lot of money.
yeah, they do.
that's a
It's just
hundred
like the
and
big
fifty thousand
truck
dollar
they
piece of
have.
machinery that's used for less than $100 a year.
Yeah, because we bought that like big tractor backhoe machine last year, didn't we? We discussed that because it was more appropriate for handling culverts.
Right.
So let's put the excavator on the listserv, let's see what we get. There's somebody in the town that wants to buy it.
There probably is.
Now, the reason why I think it's apropos to bring this up, it isn't just the buying of a piece of equipment
Mhm.
Yeah,
or a fourth dump truck. It's maintaining the damn thing for its 10 to 15-year life.
fueling it, insuring it.
And I was just gonna say, it's insuring it, that's
And
why
well,
your
that's part
insurance
of
is
the
going up
maintaining it
and
for
up
10 or
and up.
15 years.
That's right.
And, you know, you wonder why you need 4 5-tonners and 2 1-tons in the department when you only got 4 people. Why do you need 6 trucks? And then, you know, when we look at some of these things, I think we really have to look at it. it's nice to have your own excavator. Because when you want one, you don't have to wait till Concord can deliver one sometime in the next 3 weeks. But, or call up Jimmy Jakes like we used to.
Mm.
But, it's getting expensive to have all this equipment sitting around here. I mean, I went down there to dump my trash now, and they had, $300,000 worth of equipment sitting out in the middle of a gravel pit.
Be nice, Dick, that's not true.
Well, that's what it was
But you
tonight.
know what? I think that if you wanna have this conversation about equipment, you should have Scott in here.
Well, no, I'm saying, this is something that has to be looked at.
Yes.
Okay.
And you should
I
chat
mean,
with
why
him.
do we have more fire trucks than Orford, for example?
Because we respond to Orford's calls.
Well, that's part of it.
Is there a revenue line associated with that?
It's
Yeah.
mutual aid.
Mutual aid.
Yeah,
So
If we need them, they come, if they need us, we go.
And you go to,
yeah, and we were fine with Fairleigh and West Fairleigh and Norwich and.
what does that
Yeah.
balance look like?
You know?
Well, Orford does not have a vibrant fire department, so we end up
Yeah.
going to a
Yeah.
lot, yet.
Yeah,
But it's been
They're
for
working
a
on it.
while, it's been
Yes.
a while.
Yes, it
And we
is.
go to a lot of their calls. The idea is that it balances out in the end, so there is no, it's not transactional.
Right.
It is, we're all in the community together.
It's just like if Hanover gets called out and they have a big fire, Lyme goes and covers their station. So the
We-
guys go sit there.
We pay though if Hanover responds to us, right?
Nope.
We don't?
no, no, the fire department mutually doesn't work that way.
We pay for the ambulance.
Yeah,
We
it's
have a
like-
contract for the
Mhm.
ambulance.
Yeah, that's right, I
But
saw
not the
that.
fire, right.
And then
But
they get bumped,
highway
we have to
department can
cover
pay
the
and
stations that go
reimburse
to the fire, so.
Under the highway mutual aid.
But I mean, and again, like, I don't say this as a recommendation, but there's a similar thing. I said this mutual aid thing, and like, could Lyme do with one fire engine, waiting for the others to arrive? I mean, like, when do we have a fire so big it requires 2 engines from Lyme?
When it's your house, you want the engines from Lyme.
No, I understand that, but it's also a volunteer fire department that first needs to get to those trucks, right? Like, I speak to firefighters as well, and they tell me, like, if there's a real house fire, we just hope Hanover gets there before we do, because it takes us so long to get there, like Lyme is big, right? So there's a, I'm not picking on the fire department, but like an excavator, a fire truck that's $1 million, right? Like 6 dump trucks. We're getting into all these expenses where, like, if we can't cut, like, from these other areas where people are really paid pennies, and you can't be like, oh, your health insurance goes up, you pay for half of it. We'll bankrupt these people that work here, we're gonna have to get it somewhere
And
else.
they are already paying a percentage of their.
No,
new
which is
employees.
common, right,
Yes, it is
exactly.
common.
But you
Yeah.
can't simply be like, oh, it's double that, because then
No.
how much is left over, like, where do we
Right.
find it?
I do know for the highway department, they like to have the 4 trucks and a couple backups. So if they have 2 big ones and 2 little ones, they want a little backup and a big backup. But they are talking about the really big truck,
Mhm.
trading that in for a more appropriate truck that's more versatile. And I know that the big excavator, they would like to trade in, but, who knows what the cost would be even with a trade-in. So, but they are looking at all of those
Right, Scott is.
Well, I
items
mean,
as well.
yeah, we've added a lot of equipment in the highway department over the last 5 years, 10 years. And, each time we add a piece of equipment, like the excavator, the roller, the, spreading of the calcium chloride, all of those extra capabilities that we've added into the highway department. Now, I'm picking on it just because I've seen them. And you begin to wonder.
But it is fair to say that the roads are in far better shape
Yes.
year-round than they ever have been
Oh, yeah.
in the 40-something, 50 years I've lived here.
Yeah, they are better, but the question that you raised is, how better are we willing
I don't
and
know.
need to pay for?
I don't know, I just remember Martha Perkins walking from Isaac Perkins Road all the way to her house because the mud flats there
Right,
in the low road
right,
were impassable.
Well, yeah,
and
With
everybody's,
bags of groceries in each.
right,
Yeah, well, I walked into my
I've
house
done
when I
that
was
many
building
times
it
at my
because of
house
that.
too,
Well, that's
yeah.
because you chose to. Martha doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
But I also think, to the point of the highway department, is when you maintain the roads well, they're less likely to wash out. So it feels like you're still spending more money, but you're actually, it's a return on, it's preventive medicine.
Yes,
Well,
and in
some
the
of it
long
is.
run.
As
Some
long
of
as
it
we're
is, but
doing
we
the
don't
culverts
know.
right, yes.
Yes.
Right. Well, and everybody's opinion on what level the road should be kept at is very, very different. As we get lots
I
of
was
phone
gonna
calls,
say.
as we get lots of phone
Bakery
calls,
road.
when people move onto a dirt road and they don't really know what it's like around here.
Yeah, well,
They come and visit in the summertime.
They come visit us a lot, yeah,
yeah,
they
well,
do.
Well, we heard this at the housing forum 2-3 weeks ago, when one person was wondering why we didn't have a Dollar General store in town.
Yeah, oh jeez.
Okay, which planet did you move here from?
yeah, go to Fairleigh.
Did you, right, it was, so,
One or the other. Yeah.
but nonetheless, let's get back to it.
Right.
Can-
Let's get
So
back to
could,
it.
for our next meeting, we need an explanation about the highway vehicles, et cetera, right? We need Sean to defend his recommendation, and we need an oversight or an overview of the software assessing
We're gonna
stuff
break out
and the,
the new person and the
and
software.
the realignment of the
And we'll let you
people.
know if we've made a decision.
I mean, I'm just, those are the ones that I come away from this that would be very helpful to, because it's not low hanging fruit, but it's where the biggest dollars are.
You know, I mean, we've spent so many times going through and cutting $100 here and $200 there, it's just a waste of time.
Well, okay, so we can take all those little nitpicks out, but in the long run, it does add up to something, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you can only take $1,000 out, but you can take it out, and if you take it out of 10 different places, that's a little bit, it's not
Yeah.
insignificant.
Oh, no, but I
You
mean,
know,
it
some
adds
of
up, but,
Couple people's raises for the
Yeah.
year, so it makes
Goldwater's
sense.
famous quote about the federal budget, you know,
Aside
you're a
from-
billionaire, sometimes you
Aside
get
from
real
whether the
money.
town can afford this stuff,
Right,
that's one side of the equation.
Yep.
The other is if we're getting good value for what we're spending.
right.
If we can at least defend, we're getting good value for what we're spending, and it's financially justifiable, that's at least half the offset to explaining to someone why they, if they wanna live here, they should be willing to pay another 10% each year for their taxes. If you can't afford to live here, then I don't know what the answer is for those people, but, I mean, if we can't at least defend the proposition that what we're spending makes good sense financially, we'll never get the budget approved, it seems to me.
Mhm.
I mean, the same philosophy goes with the school.
Well, we haven't got there
I know, but
When we
it
get
doesn't,
there.
I would say that in the last few years, it has not gone up 10%, but, you know, if you
The
look at
budget?
it, the budget, it
The
hasn't,
town's budget
the
you're
town's
talking.
budget.
No, it absolutely has not.
But the total between the town and the school
Right,
has.
if you do the total.
People wanna look at 25 years of
individually.
my tax bills.
Oh, you did.
So,
And the interesting thing about this,
But
just so
have you
you
improved
can
on your
understand it, is by taking how much I was
That's
billed,
why he did it on his house.
yeah, you eliminate the whole issue of reassessment and this type of thing. The only thing it looks at is how much I have to pay at the end of the year.
Right.
Right.
Now, that combined the state and local school tax in the school, because we get to keep the state school
Right.
tax. So it's actually
But we-
effectively,
But remember the comment that was made by our real estate investor at the last meeting about which properties are going up in value faster than any other.
Right.
It's the houses that most people who wanna live here could afford, or
Yeah.
would like to afford, as opposed to the high end, which are not increasing
Right.
dramatically
the
like.
poor middle class is taking it in the,
Right, 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 so,
Jim,
yeah.
Yep,
Thank you.
oh, sorry,
yeah,
I know,
It's
that's
interesting.
right.
what else?
are we all petered out at this point in time? Is it time to accept a motion to adjourn at 12 minutes after 8?
One
Really?
item of
That's all?
bookkeeping,
Wow.
I think that we need to agree to meet next week. I don't think that's a,
What, meet next week?
I think it's a,
I think we have to meet next week
I think you're already.
with the questions that we gave you, if you can give us answers to them.
hang on a second, it's not on the schedule unless we put it there, it's if necessary. No, that's today, if necessary,
Right,
11:06.
today was a if necessary.
No,
11:13.
today is the 13th,
Yes,
I have it down as.
and 20 is a number,
It's
it's
up.
not.
20 is not, 20 is scheduled.
20 is a regular meeting.
Okay, my mistake, I saw that if necessary and thought, oh, wouldn't that be nice if we didn't have to meet next week?
No.
All right,
And actually, I did have another question, going back to the very bottom here. Looking as if the town voted to raise 2.8 and we've spent about 2.1 and change, so there's another 600,000. I know there's a bunch of money that you guys have to spend at the end of the year.
we're working on that list.
Do you have any indication of the amount of money you'll have left over? I guess
We
it's called
don't-
surplus, isn't it?
Not
It
right
is,
now.
but we don't, but it would definitely, if we can pick off some of these bigger items and not have to do a warrant article or have them in the operating budget, the budget will come down.
Right.
But I don't have that right now. The list is growing,
And it depends on the winter.
well.
Winter
highway,
weather can make a
but-
humongo difference.
But yes, I
What's
looked at
left?
that right away and saw that almost 25% figure,
And
6
this,
weeks.
this spent to date is relatively up to date,
Yep,
last couple of weeks.
last week.
Will you have the warrant articles for next meeting? Oh,
No,
We usually don't get those until January.
well, it was on the list,
Yeah.
the meeting
It is.
notes
Yeah.
suggested that was good.
Might be of help.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I doubt very much, but you do know there'll be, well, this year's the last year for the payment of, oh, I lost my little cheat sheet. For the highway garage, this is their final payment. The, fire station has got a year or two to go, and I think the fire truck next year may be the last year for that, so, but, you know, you get the warrant articles for the fire truck, the fire station, I think the solar panels, municipal building, those are all gonna be there, those regular payments.
Yeah, and so
And
the
then
school,
Well,
there'll be some other,
the fire truck and the fire building comes out of capital reserve funds.
right, but they are warrant articles, so he
Sure,
was asking
but they
about
don't-
warrant articles,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
standard ones will be
They're
there.
not taxes.
No, no, I was
Raised by
just,
taxes.
right, but
and we just, as soon as we pay off one bond, the school decides to
Now,
bond
now,
something else.
Build it the
don't
top
give
of
them
all
any
next week.
ideas.
No, I like taking the asbestos out.
I think it's
And
thinking
the
about,
outside of the school looks great, by the way.
It does look lovely.
Yeah, it does.
And it
All
looks like
right.
they're fully paid
Now
for.
ready for an adjournment motion.
I move. we-
Second that.
Yeah.
All right,
you all.
we're quicker, my friend.
See you next week, same time, same place.
Thanks, Judy. Very much, everybody.
Thank you.
And Dina.
A discussion without conclusions.
Well, I mean,
I do.
no, I don't, I mean,
That's my
there's no
rule.
vote, right, so there's no conclusion.
Yeah.
But
Well,
these
we're-
are,
It's very interesting because I told you,
It makes a lot of.
but, I mean, this is, I think this discussion needs to be.
right,